advice. You never know if it could change your life. Take a chance, you need a
Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dungeon Master None.
I'm Dungeon Master Matt.
And I am Dungeon Master Rob. And after our last episode, which you should listen to for to make our suffering worth it, we wanted to take the show back in a little bit more of a lighter direction. So we're going to have a bit of a grab bag.
We're talking about impeachment.
That's right. It's the impeachment
episode. Everyone's been asking us questions. What's going on here?
So Matt and I have written up some pretty robust parliamentary procedures for impeachment, and you can adopt these and use them.
Rob's Rules of Order.
Use these whether or not you are running a game with a hereditary nobility, or if you've got some sort of constitutional monarchy. We have different rules, so we're going to send those out. But we strongly suggest that to support the impeachment efforts, that you take your players, no matter what they're doing, and have them impeach the king or the prime minister or the god. Matt. Put the Death Clock song "Impeach God" in here. It's one of my favorites. We're not talking impeachment. We're going to be talking about some unwanted advice. We're going to be answering some letters,
and building some magic items. All right, well, let's dive into our unwanted advice. Rob, you're on deck in our Dungeon Master batting order.
This comes from the D&D subreddit, my favorite place to go to find people talking about their problems and then answering them without asking their permission. And this guy, this person who does not identify themselves, so I will use gender-neutral language, is talking about how they started a new D&D game with a group that they're not too familiar with at the bequest of their significant other. Red flag immediately. But I'll skip ahead a bit because there's...
Red flag because you shouldn't trust a dungeon master with a significant other?
Red flag because... no dungeon masters should have girlfriends. No,
it's or boyfriends. I think there is a perception out there that dungeon masters should be miserable loners and that they create the best art and world.
They suffer. They should suffer more than anybody. Exactly. Everyone else is having fun and you are suffering. No, it was a joke because it's like, I don't know, favoritism. I've actually played with a significant other in a game and I was never accused of playing favorites and I never did, but I don't know. There's already so much high potential for drama. I would frankly just avoid it, like I avoid a lot of other things, just to prevent having to argue with anybody. Anyway, back to the actual question at hand.
Sure.
So here's the incident in question.
All right.
Last night's session. My party has left medieval Britain and journeyed to the jungles in search of an artifact. During their travels, they encounter some of the natives who are my analog for the Aztecs. The first encounter, of course, is with a warrior who is essentially asking, "Who are you and what brings you here?" with my best attempt at what an Aztec accent might sound like.
What?
And I get a table of scrunched up faces, save for my SO who interacts with the warrior. A couple of exchanges go by, and one of the players speaks up saying he felt I was being very insensitive and appropriating Aztec culture for a game. I was taken aback. I wasn't criticizing or mocking anything, so I couldn't understand why they'd be upset. It more or less ground the whole session to a halt. I'm sort of at a loss for where to go from here. Has anyone dealt with a situation like this, and how did it resolve? Secondly, what are your opinions on using real-world cultures in your game? Should you lean into or away from it when creating cultures of your own? Matt, I gather you have some opinions on this.
Well, okay, Rob, let's gaze across the sea like stout Cortez with eagle eyes and see what we can surmise from this encounter. God damn it. Okay, don't do racist accents. Here are the list of accents you can do. Italian.
It's
Ossetian,
never racist.
Piedmontese, Sicilian, Tuscan, Venetian,
Estonian, Finnish, sometimes.
Napoleano. Yes, you can do Dutch accents as well. That's it. That's your list. That's your approved list. Also, like, I'm just curious, like, did this person listen to, like, Nahuatl speakers to, like, figure out what an Aztec accent sounds like? I'm guessing not.
I have a feeling that it sounded something like, how? Welcome to not
God
Aztec
damn it.
land.
Oh,
You know, I just,
no.
here's the thing. I have found myself in moments of high stress almost defaulting to something like this, but I usually catch myself. And I apologize if I let something vaguely appropriative switch out, but you should not intentionally try to, like, you could just make their speech slower or more careful. Like, you don't have to, like, add, like, a, you know, you can use different syntax. Like, what was, we were talking about this in, we were talking about this with regards to Critical Role and how when they do voices, they don't all do accents, but some of them have very distinct characters just
Right.
from having varying speech, right? So you can have people that speak differently without making them sound like they're primitives, right? You don't have to, like, use stereotypical racist speech patterns or stereotypes or anything. So I don't know what this person sounded like when they were doing an Aztec accent, but probably wasn't great.
No. And I mean, here's the fun thing is that role-playing games are excellent vehicles to tell stories about encounters between and among different cultures. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But, like, hey, if you run into a different culture, do they even speak the language your players speak? If they do, they might have some magical means of speaking that language, in which case there would be no accent. So, right.
Which is a great way to avoid this in both science fiction and fantasy games, is to say your translator or the spell translates the speech, and they sound like this. And you can
imagine what Star Trek would be like if every Vulcan had a Russian accent or something. It would just be so terrible.
Bad example, because that would be hilarious. But they would all sound like Chekhov.
Here we logical,
Whistles.
Captain.
Live long and prosper.
Fascinating.
The thing is that
The needs of many outweigh needs of few, Captain. Well, here's the thing: is like, here's your like fundamental mistake. Is like you've created a world where you have just medieval Britain and medieval Aztecs, and
Right.
Also, Rob's point about different voices is a good one, right? Come up with a warrior voice. Come up with a thief voice. Come up with a noble voice. Come up with a commoner voice. These don't have to be accents. They can be, patterns of speech that differentiate people's different position in a society.
Yeah, I've got a guard voice that I default to pretty often, and it's, Cockney British, thug type. And I feel a little weird because if every guard sounds like that, but I can't come up with a different speech pattern every time my players are like, well, what does this watchman say? I'm like, I don't know. I don't even know who that is. To the broader cultural appropriation question, I like to draw from different cultures, right? I think that it's cool to have a Aztec-inspired society, but you should probably not have them be exactly Aztecs, right? They shouldn't be sun-worshipping, human sacrifice, vaguely Indian-sounding people, right? Give them a little bit of dimension and depth, right, beyond the Aztec stereotype, right? And you know what? If you want to, look up some Nahuatl words. Look up some,
Avocado.
for example. And throw them in here and there. But don't probably do like an African accent if you're a white person. Probably don't do a, American Indian accent. Probably don't do
Unless
a
you're doing
Chinese.
Charlize Theron's like accent.
Yeah, do a South African.
You can do a white South African.
Yeah,
accent.
do an Afrikaner's accent. Look, this isn't like a hard and fast rule, and maybe you're so good at accents that like it doesn't offend anybody, but I would just say that if you want to be safe and you want to avoid being perceived of as racist or grinding your session to a halt, just don't. it's this is one of those things. But this is one of those things I think that people don't understand about like the woke conversation. But like nobody's saying you can't do these things. Just that it's not great. People don't like it, and maybe you'd be better off doing something else. If you want to put racist speech in your game, it's your game, man. But don't. Just like if you want people to have a good time and you want to run a good game, and you want to not be called a racist, just do something else. And so that's my long-winded suggestion regarding this. I don't think that this person is doing anything. I can see myself making this mistake as a new DM. And I can also see, like, getting my feelings hurt if people thought I was being racist. But, the answer is to learn from this and move on.
Good advice. A mature course of action that I'm sure very few DMs will follow.
Aztec is the name of the sort of overall empire, polity.
Yeah.
So if you were talking about a people group, Mexica is a better, or I'm sorry, but really, like the more you learn about the Aztec time period, like the more you realize it's been like really like painfully condensed by history into the real like depth of the past in this area has been really like grossly obscured by the way the history books teach it. Anyway, not relevant to the question we were answering. Right.
It would be like calling your Cockney chimney sweeper, oh, he had a United Kingdom-y accent.
Right. What? You say you have a Welsh person has a British accent, or like an Irish person having a British accent. Be like, well, sort of. Like that's
there's no such thing as a Welsh accent, Rob. It's part of England. I don't believe it.
It's not a real. Matt
Come at me, Matthew Reese.
Matt is coming out
Welsh
strong
nationalism.
against Welsh nationalism.
That's not true. That's not true. Okay, here's your next unwanted advice, Rob. Clerics say all the time, add guidance to all the time. But what, if anything, should I do about it? My question is simple. It seems like my clerics love spamming guidance for everything, and this feels just plain wrong. Should I do anything to stop them from adding the guidance cantrip to every single skill check? Now, some background. Do you know what the guidance cantrip is? Can you fill us in on that, Rob?
Yeah, the guidance cantrip is a cantrip that I think clerics and I think it's a divine cantrip, right? Just clerics.
It's pretty much clerics. I'm sure there's ways to get it in other classes, but you have to take
it adds a
things.
1d4 to any relevant skill check. I don't believe
ability check.
Ability check. I don't believe it applies to saving throws. No, it does apply to saving throws.
It does apply to saving throws, but not to attack checks.
Like a minute, right? Is that... So here's my opinion on that.
It's a D4.
It's a D4. Here's my opinion on that, is that guidance averages out to 2.5 extra points per roll, right?
Yep.
Not nothing, but I don't think that this is particularly game-breaking. So if your clerics are casting guidance every single time somebody picks a lock or whatever, that's possibly not exactly gameplay as intended, but I also don't know that I necessarily want to discourage that. If it is bothering you as a DM, here's my suggestion. Remember that guidance has verbal and somatic components, right? So somebody is going to notice that this cleric is casting, so they can't do it when they're sneaking around or in like a social situation. People are gonna be like, hey, what are you doing? Why are you casting a spell right now? Also, if necessary, adjust the DC. You can do that on the fly. If it's really important to you that the check be challenging, just bump up the DC a little bit.
Well, I'm against changing the DC to respond to players, but it is concentration, so they can't do anything else, right? They can't have another spell up. This is one of those things that I see from dungeon masters all the time. They're like, I have a problem with this core component of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Clerics are more fun than they used to be in like 2nd edition and really even 3rd edition at low levels. Why are you trying to make them not as good, right?
Yeah.
Having a cleric in your party means you get a D4 to almost every skill check. There's nothing wrong with that. That's good.
I also want to remind this DM that simply by saying, I help, you can give somebody advantage on any single skill check.
Which is much better than guidance.
Which works out to an additional 5 points, mathematically.
Usually.
So if your players are doing these things and they are overwhelming all of your DCs, that can be frustrating, but this is this is minor. Let your clerics have fun. You know, let them... Let me give an example of this. So this is a little metagamey, and I'm a little bit, or this is a little bit power gamey, and I'm embarrassed to admit it. But I have a character in another campaign that I haven't played a whole lot, who is a Githyanki wizard that carries a great sword and fights in full plate, and he has a familiar, and the familiar helps him on every single attack so that he has advantage, because otherwise he's not a very good fighter. But he wants. This guy likes to be up front with a greatsword. So my DM started targeting my familiar, which was annoying, but also if he was tired of my owl flying by and giving my Githyanki advantage on every single attack, that was a solution. So, you know, it's just... this is a relatively minor inconvenience. Let your clerics cast guidance, I guess, is really where I'm coming away with this.
I mean, the opportunity cost of what the cleric is giving up is doing their own action, right? If you're in rounds, and if you're not, then who the fuck cares, right? The players could try the check until they get it right. The only downside of things like this is if it's slowing your game down. But guidance is literally meant to be the least game slowing spell in existence. Your cleric hands another player a d4. That's all that happens, right? Yep. Or they just roll the d4 as someone else makes a check, right?
Just like make sure that they say, I cast guidance, here's a d4 if you're playing in person. And that's it.
Stop trying to fight your players for being good at the game.
Yeah. If they're having fun, if they're not
figured
cheating,
out a way to be better at the game, let them.
Let them be good at the game. I'm also like, I definitely know what it's like to have challenges invalidated by players, and that can be frustrating, but it's also a good thing. Let them feel good. Like if they crush a skill check, if they dominate an encounter, yeah, okay, that's frustrating if you spend a lot of time on it, but also that's fun. Like that's what makes the game good for players and for you.
The opposite of that is when a dungeon master invalidates something a player has invested their own mental and character energy into, and that's terrible.
Yeah, what you should definitely not do is say, oh, you can't cast guidance because of these reasons I made up. You should absolutely not ever do that.
All right, Rob, hit me with another one.
All right. DMs, how do you recover from a disastrous session is the title of this post. So,
drink a lot of electrolytes, obviously.
During my last session, I made the combat too unbalanced for the players. They're a group of around 6 level 6 characters. I had them fight an Archmage who used Prismatic Wall on her first turn. She also had legendary actions, blah, blah, blah. Okay. The fight went about as well as you think it did. Only one PC died, and she got revivified afterwards, but...
Well, that's not really
felt
death.
Overshadowed and overpowered, and they couldn't do very much, and this blah, blah, blah. So, after that last session, one of my players left the chat we were in. I'm 80% sure he left the campaign, but I'm going to give him some time before I talk to him, because I imagine I'm the last person he wants to talk to. I also talked to my players individually about the combat, and they each gave me the rundown of what they felt during it, what was wrong, etc. But I'm feeling doubts about continuing the campaign after that last session. The players like the roleplay aspect of it. The combat aspect of the campaign, however, has always been a bit wonky. I admit that I feel ashamed and just an overall inadequate DM. Is there any way to recover from this, or do I pack it up and call it the end?
Goddamn, if every DM quit after throwing in an unfair combat against their players, there would not be any dungeon masters left. This is, I mean, God, I feel like I've done this like Matt, at least a dozen times.
You did this like a month or two ago, and it wasn't it wasn't even really your fault. I don't want to out anybody, but let's just say we had a statistically, I think it was like a 0.00001 chance of like an infinitely exploding D4 in Savage Worlds that insta-gibbed a character.
God damn it.
And it was rough. It was not a fun session for anybody. Tensions were running high, and somebody left the campaign, but you know, we soldiered on. I TPK'd Matt. No, you weren't playing. No, you were playing. That's right. I TPK'd Matt and everybody else in that campaign by completely, well, I fucked up the numbers, but also I rolled really, really well, and they rolled really, really badly, and everybody got insta-gibbed by a flame strike. So,
yeah, it happens.
It happens, you know? Here's the thing. It can be really frustrating if you're a player and you have a combat where you don't do anything, where you feel useless. And in this one, it sounds like a NPC had to sort of like bail them out because they just couldn't do anything to the Archmage, but that will happen.
It's also like, sometimes you set up a thing, right? It sounds like these players were not expecting to fight an Archmage, right?
Yeah.
If you put an Archmage in your campaign and channel to your players, this guy or gal can really, fuck you up, and then they go fight them anyways, well, that's their own fault. It sounds like it was not their own fault, though.
Yeah, but the thing is, even if you mess up...
Even it is, whatever. The Archmage is like, I'm done toying with you, and teleports away. Now he's a person they hate.
Yeah, even if you put a monster in that you didn't really account for, and, there are some that the CR doesn't really, reflect accurately their threat level, and those can, really, Shadows or a classic example, can really, fuck up a party if they're not prepared for it. But, that happens. And it's okay if your players are frustrated, but this isn't reason to quit, I don't think. It's good that this DM talked to their players, and maybe if their players aren't having fun in the combats, they can adjust the combats to be different. But this is not an uncommon experience. And like Matt says, if every DM who had a bad combat quit, there would be no DMs left, right? Your players are gonna not do what you expect them to do, right? They're gonna show up to a combat that you think is easy and just fuck it up immensely. And they're going to show up to a combat that you think is hard and just blow it out of the water. And that's just part of the game, everyone needs to be having fun, so adjust accordingly. But, that's the great thing about D&D is that you can adjust. It's really easy. You don't have to go in and reprogram any values. Just make changes the next time.
It's okay to say to your players, I fucked up. Now you guys have an NPC Archmage who you hate very much and who doesn't give a flying flip about you. Perhaps taking this person out will be one of your goals as a party. When you look at monsters, right, don't just look at the CR. If the monster can cast Time Stop, that should be a sign that they are more powerful than your players.
I also want to point out that objectively, best DM ever, Matt Mercer, straight up murked one of his players in a combat that went, south. And that was hard for a lot of people, but it was entirely justified and everybody went on with their lives, Just don't let this... It's okay to take a break after a high intensity session, but don't quit. No reason to quit.
Okay, here's another one, Rob. Has anyone had any experience with having a new player wanting to play an opposite gender character?
Yes, I have had that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My questions are all, why make a big deal of this?
Listen, I'm going to be honest. I actually don't like doing this. I'm maybe not the most ambitious role player. I like to inhabit characters that are similar in some ways to me, but with interesting twists, to allow me to explore and to do interesting stuff. But if somebody wants to do that, I don't know. Do what you want.
It's called a role-playing game because you can be anything, right?
Yeah.
Let your players do that. Encourage them to do that, as long as they're not being weird about it.
I mean, listen, gender is a construct, Matt.
Gender is a
genders.
social construct.
Do you want to know how many? Hey, you know how many genders there are? As many as you want. There are as many genders as...
There's a D20 genders, Rob.
At least. Anyway, I don't know. Let them do whatever they want. Yeah, just don't let them... I mean, if they're gonna be weird, don't let them be weird. But that's a different story.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, let's get to letters.
This is a letter from Douglas. Hey, Matt and Rob, really appreciate what you're doing to educate us all. Thanks a ton. You're one of the best D&D podcasts out there, and I left a 5-star review for you on Stitcher saying so. I have one question and for you. Would love to get your ideas on crowd control. Meaning, how do you manage combat when your PCs are jumped by 6 or 8 goblins at a time? I've heard rolling one initiative for the whole lot of NPCs is common, but it seems if you do that, your players are going to get seriously pounded for 8 sets of blows before they can fight back. As a new DM, I'm leery of trying this out to see if they survive. would it be ethical to roll initiative individually for each NPC prior to the encounter to save time at the table? What is your approach? Thanks again for sharing your deep knowledge. You're helping us more than you realize. With appreciation, Douglas.
I have an approach to this. So
Yeah.
I generally do roll, if I've got a bunch of mooks, roll one initiative and have them all go on that.
Absolutely. I do the same.
For those large-scale combats, though, it is generally not 6 goblins firing arrows at a single person unless the PCs have done something very foolish and isolated one of their players.
Here's the thing: if you have 6 players and 8 goblins, you roll one initiative for the goblins. In most cases, some of the players are going to go before and some of the players are going to go after the goblins, right?
Yeah.
Occasionally you'll get all the goblins get a round in on the players, but that's very rarely enough to kill an entire party. Unless you're doing something really dickish like, 8 goblins appear. They all get a 22 on initiative. That's before everyone. They all attack the same player.
Right.
Well, don't do that.
Here's 2 like nuts and bolts strategy things that I've used in the past. Okay, so if you've got like a lieutenant, right? So if it's like 6 goblins and a goblin shaman, roll the initiative for the shaman separately, right? They go on a different initiative. If there's a really large number, and frankly, you probably shouldn't have your players fight like more than 10 or 12 bad guys ever. But you can do 2 things. You can divide them into 2 initiative counts, or you can have some of them arrive later in the combat, right? That's to avoid the overwhelming and also tedious business of having a really large number of baddies go in between players. That's what I've done in the past. But generally, even if my players are coming up against a large group of enemies, some of them go first, and they usually kill a few before they actually get to go. Yeah. So I don't think I have ever had a problem with large numbers of baddies going on a single initiative. To answer your question, Doug, can I call you Doug?
Yes. I don't know. He's not here. He can't hear us, Rob.
It would be ethical to roll initiative individually for each NPC if you wanted to. I can't think of any reason why that would be bad. I just don't think you have to do that.
Yeah, you're being afraid of something that I think most DMs have done for years without any, giant negative effects. Don't worry about it. And Rob's point of, hey, if you want to have your players fight large groups of people and you're afraid of the monsters, 10 monsters going before your 6 players, have Squad A arrive in the first round, Squad B climb up through the stairs on the second round, right?
And that's a great way you can be like, great, so on initiative 8, 5 more goblins appear. So then you have 2 separate, squads, and you're not bunching them all together on a single initiative count.
Right. Have divide your monsters into initiatives by how they're organized, right? If they're hobgoblins in 2 platoons, right? The platoons act together, right?
Or
make it logical for your players.
Right. Here are your goblins with swords, and here are your goblins with bows. The sword goblins go on at 14 and the bow goblins go on at 12. It's I get your concern, Douglas, but I think you're worrying too much unless your players have already been screwed over by getting pounded on by a bunch of goblins. So just play intelligently, make logical decisions for your monsters, but don't have them do something like show up and insta-gib your wizard or something like that, and it should be fine.
And your question about would it be ethical to roll the NPCs prior to the encounter? Yes, absolutely. It is entirely ethical to roll it before. It's still a random number. You're just saving yourself time. The die is no different whether it's rolled 2 hours before the game or in the moment.
Yeah, and if your players don't trust you for that, that's a bigger problem. You are inherently trustworthy, so
just roll behind the screen, but you already have the numbers and don't bother.
This isn't a question, Matt, but I wanted to
great question. Thanks, Douglas.
Thank you, Douglas. I wanted to read this one. Thank you to Kansas City Revival for messaging us on Twitter. This was in response to our world building episode on races and ancestries, and Kansas City Revival writes, "Switch elves and humans, but most fantasy dwarves have not fulfilled their revolutionary potential. They're an extremely industrialized, powerful proletariat working beneath hereditary, noble dwarf households. No, they need to form small worker councils for administration or Soviets. Absolutely correct, Kansas City Revival. This is a great setting and idea kernel for a revolutionary campaign is a dwarven underclass rising up to seize power from the nobles. It's perfect. It's practically writes itself.
Clan Elder Karinsky is has become a reactionary tool. I would love to the Clan Hall Soviets. That's the underground Soviets, literally.
It's good. They already work in mines and factories. It doesn't require any sort of
Seize the forges.
Doesn't require any difficult mental jumps to give dwarves all Russian accents. I mean, this is fun. I like it.
I would play a whole campaign of this.
Yeah.
All right. I suppose it's my turn to read a letter. Okay, here we go. This letter is from Scott. Quick backstory to make everything else seem relevant. Been listening to RPG podcasts for a while, but never really played myself. Stranger Things got my 12-year-old son interested, and we made a D&D character and bought a miniature. We have friends whose kids play and just played the Stranger Things one-shot together. Beyond that, I started creating a larger campaign to keep the kids engaged and enthralled. Awesome. Okay, here's Scott's idea for his campaign. My idea is to model it off Disney's Magic Kingdom. Evil media tycoon sorcerer who turns into a weremouse or something else. Final boss style is captured 4 realms, with each realm a different land in the park. Future, fantasy, frontier, and adventureland. Each realm would have a different feel, pulling from rides and characters you would see. Would like to incorporate solving puzzles, skill challenges, and chases while crafting a much larger integrated world. I want to base it off the Magic Kingdom, but keep it obscurish for a while until they figure it out. How do I make it fun and interesting and challenging, and how wild can I go at first? How do I work in secondary quests for them? We have 4 boys playing, might bring some adults in as guests, ages 9 through 13. Have you guys worked with kids before? They were pretty smart when it came to last adventure, so I can make it pretty elaborate for them. Do you have any thoughts or advice for a brand new DM looking to keep kids occupied and off the video games for the winter? Thanks. Love the podcast so far. Scott.
Scott, these are great questions. Thanks for writing in. As Matt and I, we discussed running games for kids recently, but as Matt and I have discussed, we are both childless elder millennials. We don't have children ourselves and don't run games for a ton of children. So
I think of all of the listeners to this show as my children.
So take all of our child related advice with a grain of salt, because I have spent some time around teen boys.
Because children need salt.
Because I mentored a few and I've run a couple of games, so I haven't spoken to any teens ever or young boys, but it's not, I don't have a kid, I guess is what I'm saying. But Scott, sounds like you're doing a great job. If they had a good time, if they're interested, keep doing what you're doing. I also would encourage you to treat them like little adults, right? Don't dumb it down, right? If you're worried about them catching on or picking up on your little why, if you want to get wild with it, get wild with it. Have a good time. I think that your players are going to find your enthusiasm infectious. So whatever is interesting to you, throw it at them. It sounds like you've got a great foundation with the Magic Kingdom. Use that and then just spin off. Build a wild fantasy world based off of all of those different, intervening elements. It sounds like you're basically running Kingdom Hearts, the RPG, which is beautiful. I'm for it.
Yeah, I'm guessing maybe your, as long as your players have some familiarity with Disney World. Growing up in Texas and Oklahoma, I did not.
Neither did I. We are not Disney
But if you live
kids.
in Orlando or something, this sounds perfect.
Yeah. I know enough to like the idea, so I'm sure that your players are going to love it. But I get your concern, and if your boys get bored, here's the thing. If your players get bored, if it looks like you're losing them, I don't know, throw a combat at them. I do this for adults, all right? If I feel like I'm losing my players and they're not following the like complicated plots that I'm setting out, I throw in like a challenge, usually a combat. This is a cheat. This is low effort gaming, but everybody
it works.
Everybody snaps to attention when there's a combat usually, even if they're not like a high combat player. And this is even better in 5th edition where combats aren't like grueling 2-hour affairs.
Right.
So
you can be done in 15 minutes.
So I'm not super worried about your players, but if they do get bored, you know, just throw in a little bit more action to keep them engaged. But I think you're doing a great job, and I would love to hear how this progresses, Scott. Here's
my one red flag in this idea, right? I love the idea of an evil tycoon sorcerer pulling in captured realms to make some sort of goal of who knows, right? I think that villain needs to have a goal, right? Why are they just building a theme park, or are they capturing these realms for a larger plan, for example, to dominate the entire multiverse? The one red flag I see is like, try not to think of having one skill challenge, one puzzle, one chase per realm, right? Players going from Adventureland to Fantasyland or something like that. Try and make it more of a living world of all these, you know, weird mashup of things captured and put together, right? How would that play out, right? Because it can get a little stale if you're like, all right, here comes the chase scene for World B. All right, okay, now we're on to the chase scene for World C, right? Try and make it more organic for your players. I find adults and kids respond to this just as well. Remember, the strength of a role-playing game is that anything can happen, right? It doesn't have to be Mega Man, where you have one boss fight per world.
Yeah, no, I agree with that completely. But I think you've got a great idea here, and I think it should be fun for kids that age, and I'd love to hear how it goes. But
let's know how it goes.
Here's the thing. I think we're at the stage where most people across the age spectrum are just excited about what you're excited about. You know, nobody's cool anymore. Nobody's too cool for anything these days. And just, if you're excited about your campaign, your players will be too. So just get as wild and wacky as you want to, and just, you know, pay attention to what they're liking and respond accordingly.
No one's too cool for things these days. I feel like, Rob, we're approaching the point. Have you read Robert Putnam's Bowling Alone?
I haven't. It's on my list. It's come up a bunch recently in other things I've been reading.
Are you at least familiar with the sort of
the
thesis?
thesis, yeah.
Right. It's American sort of social fabric, you know, after the like 60s and 70s. Kiwanis clubs and bowling leagues began to disintegrate, and the rise of the suburbs, and like America, especially white America, he's talking about, right, kind of lost its sense of neighborliness and community. Mm-hmm. I feel like, Rob, we're approaching the point where someone's going to write an actual academic text about how Dungeons and Dragons is going to solve the bowling alone crisis of America, re-stitch our communities.
I would read that.
You could write it, Rob.
I could write it. We could write it together,
Matt. Matt does not share the co-author space with anyone. That's falsely untrue. We have written 3 adventures now together.
We have. Okay. Do we have another question?
Here's a letter from Jason. Jason writes, want to drop a quick line to let you know that I love the show and keep up the great work. Jason.
Thank you, Jason. We always appreciate that. It's been a rough couple months for the DM of None podcast. It's been dicey times, but we like doing it, and we're glad that people enjoy it, and we want to keep doing it. So we appreciate those of you who do like this show.
All right, Rob, should we talk about some magic items?
So Matt has done some research. Credit to Matt for doing the thing that I did not do, and found some neat looking historical objects from which we are going to build. We're going to build one magic item. We might get to some others next time, but Matt, describe describe this thing that you have produced for us, and then let's work on some magic stats for it.
Rob, it's a magical, horrible, untitled goose.
Untitled goose reliquary.
We'll have the link in the podcast notes, but this is a Kushan rock crystal reliquary in the shape of a goose. It's from circa the 1st century CE in Gandhar.
Gandhara. I actually have no idea where that is. I'm going to look it up.
Gandhara. The goose once contained a gold strip bearing an inscription stating that a relic of the Buddha had been placed in it.
Present-day Afghanistan and Pakistan. So,
So, and the Kushan Empire was one of those classical empires that no one studies, that spanned a huge chunk of Central Asia. And it looks like an adorable crystal goose.
It is a really fine piece of carving. We'll include a link.
It reminds me a little bit of the little vial of holy water that Frodo and Sam used to scare away a spider.
The filter. What is that thing called?
The Phylactery of Arendelle.
Something like that.
Something like that.
We're gonna get
our most beloved star.
We're gonna get canceled for not remembering the light of
The light of Arendelle.
I mean, I look at this, and of course, it looks a bit like a wondrous figurine, but I think that's too easy. I would love
obviously
an item that summons a horrible goose, but I just because I've got the goose game on my mind. But the obvious thing is that it's clearly designed to have something placed inside of it. So what sort of so that should be the magical effect. So you place something inside the little bowl of this. Let's call it a. Just keep coming up with like honk-related puns. The bowl of honking. Honk if you love reliquaries. I'm losing my mind, Matt. What are we gonna call this?
All
thing?
right. Let's call it the reliquary of Anatide or something for the goose.
It.
The goose.
The name of goose. Okay.
Goose in Latin. Yeah.
Anatidian
reliquary.
Okay. So it's. You place a item or a substance inside of this reliquary, this little bowl, and let's see. So, what sort of effect does that have?
Well, here's actually a fun but perhaps too powerful effect. We'd have to think about it. Is it looks like this could be a bowl that you could fill up with a liquid. How about you could fill up this liquid with a magical potion? You then speak a command word, or phrase. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. You release the reliquary, and a magical celestial goose flies over the heads of any friendly creatures you command, and spreads the effects of that potion to that many creatures. So, for example, if you have one potion of invisibility, it would cast it on every single person. And then it becomes inert
I think that's
for a
terrific.
week.
So it combines a bit the effects of a wondrous figurine with a potion. So you pour a potion into the bowl, a potion of healing or a potion of haste or invisibility. You speak the command word, and then it appears. So it actually forms a physical creature, a celestial creature that then
a spirit goose maybe.
Manifests that spell to let's say up to
6,
up to 6 targets. So this would be an artifact, right? It's clearly an artifact creature or artifact item, right? But I don't think that's unfathomably powerful. We should probably place a limit on the level of spell that it is able to. Ooh, I have an idea.
Potions themselves, right? Only go up to like 3rd level.
Let's say that it remains dormant for the number of days equal to the level of the potion.
We could just say it remains dormant for a week.
Yeah.
Less math.
You're right, less math.
Now, the downside of this, Rob, that we've come up with is that it might give players the incentive to never drink a potion except for using the goose. I can imagine a rogue being like, oh, I need to go invisible really quick, and everyone else goes, no, let's save it for the goose.
Save it for the goose. Well, here's an idea. Why don't we make the goose an intelligent item? One that encourages its use. One that wants to be beneficial. A guiding goose god or goose spirit that wants to be helpful. And it's not like it's going to like force players, but if your goose is encouraging you to make use of it, right? That might. And also, I feel like players sometimes forget they have things. So if your
potions.
Artifact goose is reminding them,
pour that potion of healing into me, I'll heal everyone.
I will bring blessings to your players. Oh, I like this. This is fun.
Honk.
The honk honk. This is good. It's a beneficial goose rock reliquary. Yeah, I like that.
All right, I feel like we need a new name for it now.
Yeah,
like, the crystal mother goose.
Hang on, let me look up some.
The golden goose of cooking. Of potions. I mean, the goose of sharing.
Let's see. It could be the goose of generosity.
That's good enough. The
crystal goose of generosity. I like that. Yeah. Okay. So this is our crystal goose of generosity. It'd be an artifact item. I like it. I think it's good. I think it's got some. It's a really cool looking object. We'll share it in the show notes. And yeah. If, by the way, we have a bunch of these. We have a ton of these. But if you have some nifty artifact that you saw in a museum or you found online, send it to us, and we will absolutely create a magic item from it.
We have enough. We should probably put out a book of them all.
We should do this soon. Trademark, copyright, all TM, CR, whatever.
All right, links for the Crystal Goose of Generosity stats will be in the episode notes.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for writing in. As always, if you want to ask us a question or hear us say your name on the air, write us at dmofnone@gmail.com. Add us on Twitter at dmofnone. You can also call us at Matt. What's that number?
It's I was just saying it to myself this morning as I was brushing my teeth. I was, practicing saying the number. And I'm sure I'll remember. It's 774 203
4629.
4629. 774-203-2629.
4629.
Yes, that one.
Last time, 774-203-4629. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks again, everybody. We will be doing a review of Descent to Avernus soon. We will be talking about Alex Klippinger's Skullport Dragon Swindle, a supplement to Waterdeep Dragon Heist. And we're getting caught up. It's getting cold. It's getting dark. We're going to be sitting inside talking about Dungeons and Dragons.
Time to curl up with some gaming.
But thanks for listening, everybody, and keep rolling them dice.
I get those goosebumps every time. I need the Heimlich, throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around, when you throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. 713 through the 281, yeah, I'm riding. Why they on me? Why they on me? I'm flying, sipping low key. I'm sipping low key.